you're going to need a shelf bra elastic, the bottom strap elastic, 2 middle strap elastics, and 2 top strap elastics. Then we need to cut out the strap fabric. So there's a bottom strap, 2 middle strap fabrics here, and 2 top strap fabrics cut out. The next thing you need to do is cut out your side pieces. You will need 2 side pieces of your main fabric and 2 side pieces of your lining fabric. They can be the same or they can be different. Either is okay. Then you will need to cut out your bra piece. This piece is shorter than the main piece, the main front piece. And then you will also need to cut out your main front piece. Again, these can be the same fabrics, but they don't have to be. At this step, you also want to cut out your power net if you're using it. You will baste your power net and your bra together, and then you will place the elastic here on the bottom of your bra piece or your lining piece, and then you will stitch it on. You can serge it or you can sew it using a stretch stitch. You're going to press the elastic down and away from the right side of the fabric towards the wrong side of the fabric. I like to pin it in place during this step because it does create a nicer seam. It prevents from having any extra fabric or any extra bulging sort of along the bottom there. So I usually put about 3 to 4 clips or pins in place, and I like to pull the elastic so it's taut and there are no wrinkles in the fabric when I'm placing my pin. And then we're going to go ahead, and as you see here, we are going to top stitch the elastic along the unfinished or unfolded edge of the elastic. And then we get to add our lining side pieces to the bra or the lining of our Spellbound bra. You're going to want to place these pieces right side spacing with the bra. You will have extra fabric at the bottom of your side pieces that will not be attached to the lining of the Spellbound bra. This is intentional. Do not freak out. This is how it's meant to be. It's going to be okay. Just keep going. Trust the process. Pin both sides right side spacing with your lining piece after the elastic has been sewn on and secured. We're then going to stitch down the sides. As you can see from the other side, there's some fabric towards the bottom that is overhanging. We are going to finish those raw edges of those side pieces also, if you're using a serger. If you're not using a serger, you do not need to finish them. We can do that later. So now they're finished. We're going to go ahead and press the seams towards the side pieces. You're going to press them out, and then we will top stitch them down. We are going to then do the same thing for our main piece. So you're going to place the side pieces of your main front bodice right side spacing with each other, and then you will stitch them in place. You will then press the seam allowance towards the side, just like this, and then you are going to top stitch it in place. These pieces will not have any extra fabric that hangs over at the bottom. That is as intended. So again, don't worry, trust the process. As you can see, they're now top stitched, and we're ready to move on to the next step. We're going to place the lining or the bra right side spacing with our main fabric. Align those seams that we just created between the side and the main and pin at the side seams. I like to do that just to align it. What we're going to do is sew the neckline first. This is an optional step in order to kind of help it lay nicer. So if you would like to understitch the lining, you're going to need to stitch the neckline first, as I've done here, and then we'll flip it out and you can understitch the seam allowance to the lining you'll just use a stretch stitch. You can also use a cover stitch. And this will just prevent any bubbling or popping out that the lining may want to do. It really doesn't do it that much, but some people really do prefer to understitch, and so if you want to do that, definitely be sure that you stitch that neckline first. Then we'll go ahead and we'll sew the arm seams, or the arm skies, just like that. And this is what it will look like. It won't lay nicely at this point because you have elastic in there. This is probably the last time it's gonna lay nicely for a while, and that's okay. So we'll set that to the side for now because now we have to create our straps. So the first step in creating our straps is to fold the strap pieces right sides facing on each other like this. So the long edges align, the raw long edges align. We're gonna sew right along there. And then we're gonna repeat that process for all of our strap pieces. Next, we get to turn them out. You can use a turning tool, but these are short enough. I really just use my finger. I just kind of gather it on my finger like that, and then I pull, and just pull it out. And it works pretty well. Every once in a while I get a little bit stuck there, but it's pretty easy to get out and it goes pretty quickly. So you do that, and then you're just gonna do that again with all of the straps. I wanna say it maybe takes me 5 minutes total. If I was doing thinner straps, I would definitely use a turning tool, but because these are thicker straps for 1-inch elastic, it's not that big of a deal just to turn them by hand like that. The next thing we're going to do is take our bodkin. You can also use a safety pin. This is what a bodkin looks like in case you don't know. It's a really fun tool for threading elastic. It's so helpful. I use it a lot. You're going to attach the bodkin to your elastic, cinch it on down, and then we're just going to insert it into the strap. When you're doing this, try to make sure that the seam stays on one flat side of the elastic and that the other side of your strap doesn't have a seam on it at all. So you don't want the seam aligned with like the edge of the elastic. You want it just like this where you can kind of see the seam right there down the middle. This means we'll be able to hide that seam when we construct the back part of your Spellbound. And for me, it just looks nicer. If you don't care, that's also totally fine. It's totally personal preference. So if you don't do that, or if you mess up and you have a seam pointing out, it's not a big deal at all. Please do not worry about it. You can just do it next time. So then we're going to go ahead and put the elastic in all the rest of the pieces using that same technique. Just pull with your bodkin. Sometimes I like to cut my elastic just a little bit longer than my straps. That way I have some sticking out at the ends, but you don't want to do too much because you don't want to have too much elastic or it'll be loose. So again, personal preference. The measurement chart has every piece exactly the same length as the straps, but if you want to make it a little bit easier for yourself, just cut it like a 1/4 inch longer to make the pulling through easier and the attachment easier. So now we get to take our top straps and we're going to thread them through the strap portion of the front bodice that we created. So there's the seam right there. We're pointing it up towards the lining because that way it will face our bodies and it won't face out and nobody will see it. It just looks so clean and crisp when it's done and you can't see the seam allowance. So again, personal preference, absolutely just I prefer how it looks and not necessary at all. I'm using my bodkin here to pull it through. This is a pretty easy process. It's not too difficult and it shouldn't really need much pulling. And you do that and then we're just going to sew right there along the top. You can either sew and then go back and thread the other one. I'm just going to go ahead and thread both really quickly. That way I can just sew them at the same time. It can be a little easier that way, or everybody's brain functions a little differently, so if you just prefer to do the same things all grouped together, then go ahead and insert both straps. They're not going to go anywhere. It's not loose, but it's also not too snug. And just make sure that those seam allowances are pointed up. You don't want too much exposed elastic because you want those straps to be the same length. You can clip them in place. I did here, but it's not really necessary. They're not really going to go anywhere because they're the same width. Here you can see I've sewn straight across to attach the straps, Now we are not going to turn everything fully right side out. We're just going to pull those straps out. Leave that lining just pressed up. It is not going to lay nicely, y'all. It's not. We have elastic happening. We have curved seams happening, but we're just going to try to keep everything in place. So the first thing you're going to do is take one strap and make sure it's not twisted, and align the main part of the strap, or the non-seam allowance part, with the main fabric of your Spellbound there. And you want to do it as close to the seam as possible, as close to that arm sky seam from between the main and the lining. So then you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side, just attaching that top strap as close to that seam as possible. If you are sewing an E, an F, or a G cup, I believe, it may just be an F and G cup. I think it's E, F, and G. You are going to space your straps evenly. For all other cup sizes, you are not going to have any space between your straps at all. So then this is the next strap. These are the crisscross middle straps. You're going to start by pinning one strap right below the top strap on one side. You're going to take the other strap and pin it right below the top strap on the first side there. The next thing we're going to do is pull the other end of the middle strap to right below the middle strap on the other side. It's a little confusing, and that's why this video hopefully will help you. If my words don't help you enough, hopefully watching me while I do it will. You're just going to go ahead and pull it across, and then you're going to repeat the process for the other middle strap, and then you'll have crisscrossing straps when you get finished, just like that. Cross it over, and then pin it right below, so you don't want any space in between. Again, if you are doing the E, F, or G cup sizes, you will, you're still going to keep these two straps not separated at all on the edges, but you're going to have space between your top straps and your middle straps, and your middle straps and your bottom strap. The next thing we do is put this bottom strap on. Again, no space between the middle strap and the bottom strap. Pin it in place, and then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Right now we're only pinning it to the main fabric. It's just easier to do this way. The next thing you're going to do is fold your lining down. I have it pulled up right there. You're just going to fold it right over. Align the bottom edges, and then you're going to transfer your pins. So hold it in place and then transfer the pin or the clip from where you have it so that it is now including that lining. This way, everything stays exactly where we want it to be. Nothing's slipping around. You can see everything and the placement when you're placing it, and it just makes it super easy to visualize and to see what you're doing. And then we're going to repeat this process for the other side. So just fold that lining down. Again, nothing's going to lay nicely right now. It's just going to look kind of like a pile of straps, which makes it hard to visualize, right? I get it. But we're just going to go ahead and transfer those clips, and we're going to trust the process, and we're going to get where we need to go, and we're going to make an awesome bra. So everything is pinned together. The next thing we need to do is sew down the sides. So using that 1/2 inch seam allowance, we are going to sew down the side, enclosing those straps in our seams. We have sewn. We did it. Everything is sewn and where it is. Now we get to turn our bra right sides out. Yay! There's the lining or the bra piece, as you can see. Now we're going to turn it so it's right sides out and we can see everything. And then we're going to get on to hemming. The hemming process is a little bit different for this than it is for others because we do have that little lining piece of the side. And so we are going to, isn't that cute? So cute. We are going to start by pressing up right there at the edge where the elastic is. So that bottom strap is your guide for where you are pressing your fabric up to. you should have about 1/2 inch. I say about because strap placement is just, straps can slip and it's not necessarily going to be precise. But you're going to press that up so that your elastic is kind of flush, and it'll be the bottom of the bra, the bottom strap elastic, I mean. And then we are going to do that all the way around. You're going to fold it up where the lining is, and when you see, you're going to kind of pull the lining back so it all is enclosed and those seam allowances meet right there. I'll show you a little bit closer here. You just press down right there so that the elastic is the bottom. It should be about 1/2 inch. You're going to press down at the edge of the lining, the finished edge of the lining, and that finished edge right there, which is a seam on the main piece, and match them up so that that seam is kind of protected and you have a nice clean edge on the inside and the outside, and then you're just going to pin it or clip it right there in place, and then we get to hem it. But before we hem it, before we sew, we need to press up our fabric all the way around that same 1/2 inch, or approximately 1/2 inch, the rest of the way around the bra. If you were making a skirt, you will go ahead and go back to the tutorial that comes with your pattern, and you will add the skirt. It's a pretty simple process to add the skirt. You're just going to put it right sides facing and sew, and then you're going to put elastic, fold down, and top stitch. But in this, we're just pressing that up and we're top stitching. Once it's done, you're done, and you get to put on a really cute, comfortable bra that will support you and keep you nice and dry and happy, and just have you feeling all the cute. So I hope that you love this pattern as much as we do, and I hope you share your makes with us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and anywhere else that you're hanging out. Have a great day.